Everybody, this is an exciting masterclass. We have Dr. Gary Sanchez. He's going to be speaking in February, our Ultimate Leadership event in Beverly Hills. We've maxed out the room block twice. We've got one last bump of, I think, 5 more rooms, and then we're going to be maxed out at the hotel. Still come, you just can't stay on site. But Gary's been developing something over the last 15 years that is based in Simon Sinek's work. And he's going to help the room, all of us, learn Know Your Why. And what he's developed here, he's traveling around the world now teaching billionaires who are then applying that inside of their businesses and their companies. So this podcast is a teaser for what our group is going to get to experience here in February. You're really going to enjoy this one. Let's jump in. Hey everybody, welcome into this masterclass. I'm here today with a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Gary Sanchez from the Y Institute. And Gary's going to be one of our speakers out at our February event at the Peninsula in Beverly Hills, which, by the way, we're on our 3rd room block increase now. So I think we've got like 5 more rooms and that thing's going to be maxed out. So if you're watching and you haven't grabbed a room, this is going to be a great event. Most of our membership's going to be there, and it's amazing how quick this one's filled up. So, but our keynote, we're building the program around here, is Gary Sanchez. I say Dr. Gary because I've known Gary now for over a decade. When I first met him, he was a dentist. And so Gary's very much cut from UAC members' cloth of most people in UAC are chiropractors. And now they've evolved on beyond their practice, whether it's scaling other clinics or getting into coaching or, different B2B businesses that serve chiropractors in other ways. And so Gary took a very different path. But I'll get you talking in a minute, Gary, but I got to tell the story first. When I first met you, we're in a Goodwill Ambassador group together for the state of New Mexico called the New Mexico Amigos. And we happened to sit next to each other on a train ride out to visit West Point in upstate New York. And we just got to chatting. And Gary got to tell me about his true passion is helping people understand their why. And if I remember right, you just read that Simon Sinek. You had a while back read the Simon Sinek book. Is that called? What was that called, Gary?
Start with why.
Start with why.
Yep.
And you were really bothered, I remember, that you got to the end of the book and you're like, well, how do I figure out my why? And you actually, if I remember right, you reached out to him and had conversations and he's like, yeah, that's not what it's about. It's not what I do. And you got really stuck on, well, that's kind of dumb. There's this genius concept of understanding your why. And you were in the early stages of that point of figuring out how does somebody know their why? How do they figure out their why? And so it seems like every 2-3 years we would end up on a trip together or something. And it's been remarkable over the last 10-12 years. Every time we come together, what you've done with this, Gary, you just exponentially increase this. I know the Y Institute is now Gary's business, and we'll talk more in depth, but Gary spent a lot of time over in the Genius Network with all of those members. We ended up on a flight together earlier this year, and he's going to speak to a group of billionaires here in Dallas. And it's been remarkable, the program that you've built and how this is helping individuals, is helping kids. This is helping business owners with their staff and their team. So Gary, I'll shut up now. And I guess first of all, what are your thoughts as I give you the intro? What comes to mind?
Well, you're right on. And this is not something I ever set out to do. I didn't wake up one day, Alan, and decide, hey, I think I'm going to figure out how to help people develop a software to help people find their why. That's not how it happened. Yeah. Right. I was a dentist, which is similar to chiropractics. And I had been given advice as I went along that wasn't turning out like I thought it would. Right. The advice that I got was build a great product and people will come. Yeah. And so I spent 20 years reaching the highest levels you could get to in dentistry, studying with the best mentors, building the beautiful practice, all the stuff, only to blend in with everyone else who said, yeah, I'm a dentist too. Right. I'm sure you experienced that in chiropractic. Oh, yeah, I'm a chiropractor too. You're like, yeah, but we're not doing it the same way. It's not the same thing, but nobody knows really. And so just was so frustrated. And I went out and hired a coach, a guy by the name of John Assaraf. Do you remember John Assaraf? Was in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the movie The Secret.
Yep.
So I hired him, and through him, I learned how to use the internet. I learned how to do websites and drip campaigns and SEO and all that stuff. So I could tell the world all about me. But the only problem was, what am I going to say? What am I going to say that separates me from everyone else who does what I do? What are your, and since I didn't know and I didn't want to sound desperate or like I actually needed new patients, I just stayed quiet until one day I heard him interview Simon Sinek and I learned about this whole concept of why. So then I went out and I bought the book, read it many times, watched his TED Talk probably 20 times. And I was like, that is what I'm missing. I have a great what, but I don't know my why. So that's when I became obsessed with this. And like you said, I called Simon. I said, hey, Simon, can you help me discover my why? He's like, that's not really what we do. But he and I spent about 8 months together going back through my life looking for clues, trying to figure it out. And I finally figured out my why, which is to find a better way and then share it, right? Find a better way and share it. And I don't know if we should give any secrets in about you as we're going along, but we could.
Sure. Well, let me just say this, Gary. What's really impressive last time is what you've developed now. You go in and we're going to do this together in the room. You take the assessment you've developed. How many whys are there total?
Yes, there's 9 different whys.
And so we did that together and we landed on what my why was. And it was the coolest thing because you're actually able to see as I'm going through real time on the back end of the software you built, which you built all on your own. And that was cool. And we can talk more about that. But then this last time you're like, well, then I realized I still needed the what and the how.
Yep.
Behind the why. And I was like, well, what are you doing there? And you're like, oh, check this out. And all of a sudden I was like, Gary, you got to come talk to UAC because here's what's interesting too, Gary. We're certified PDP with PDP, which is a behavioral assessment, kind of a corporate level. There's some folks in UAC that use predictive index, culture index. And almost everybody in the room is familiar with Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, Colby, DISC. And you managed to hit this spot that's completely unique to all of these different assessments. And to me, really, I just kept thinking of my kids as we were on that plane talking about how do I help these people, and even some of my team members, the people are really close to me that I can see they haven't quite had that epiphany of defining themselves by what their why is and using that lens to communicate what they do, to find purpose. Talk about those other parts too.
Yeah. So, Simon Sinek talks about start with why, and that's true. Start with it, but don't end there. It's a great place to start, and it gives you a one-dimensional look into yourself. You go from not knowing to knowing, from unaware to aware, but that's just where you start. When you add your how you bring your why to life, and then you add your what it is people can count on from you, that's when you get a 3-dimensional picture of yourself. That's when it becomes really powerful. So just knowing your why it's a good start, but it's not where you end. And so the software that we're going to use at the event is going to take you through finding your why, your how, and your what, and it will build your personal message for you so that you can say it. If you can't say it, you don't know it. And sort of kind of maybe thinking that you might know your why, not very valuable. When you're crystal clear on your why, how, and what, that's when it becomes very powerful. Because then it gives you the words to tell the world exactly who you are and why they should choose you. And that's where your marketing, your messaging, your branding, all of that comes from. That's how your team can talk about you. It gives you a much deeper way to tell the world who you are instead of this is what I do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many people in the room now at UAC who've built careers off social media. And there's so many people aspiring to do that. I think are going to gain tremendous clarity from this, but even the lens of those with practices, how to define yourself in the marketplace. Even Gary, I suspect when you meet somebody for the first time, this probably changes how you're speaking and viewing your identity in the world and presenting yourself to others. Is that fair?
Exactly right. And you know what most of us do, let's say, those of you that are now watching this, you would look at me or Alan and you would look at our hairstyle, what we're wearing, what's in the background, and you create a narrative around what you think you see. And then that's who we are to you. So we're going to do this in California when we're together in Beverly Hills. I'm going to put a picture of somebody that's very famous up on the screen, and we're going to talk about what we see there. And then I'm going to share with you what their why, how, and what is, and you'll see how differently you would connect, work with, talk to them, build a treatment plan for, hire them, all those things when you actually know who it is you're talking to. Not from the perspective. So you brought this up, which was really valuable. There's Myers-Briggs, Colby, StrengthsFinders, DISC, PDP, all those. Those are great tools, and we like them and we use them. Those are how someone takes action. We're going to focus on why they take action, motivation versus their process. And, that's personality. This is motivation. So it's not a matter of one is better than the other. It's just a matter of sequence. If you start with the why, it'll make the PDP and all the others even more valuable. So I'll show everybody how we do that.
Gary, I'm just out of curiosity as you're speaking. One of the things I liked about those tools was a lot of people who are in the higher levels of, let's just say, success in any given profession. They sort of hone this innate ability to, I'm going to say, read people and sort of adjust to mirror them. As we've been scaling clinics, I've learned that that is kind of a gift that, that a lot of your upper level entrepreneurs, founders have. But as they get into scaling, that's not so easy to translate into. And I'm wondering, can you speak to how we apply that there? But I'm also wondering, you probably have a lens because you literally developed this material where you're probably pretty quickly now assessing what you're guessing the person's why is and probably changing and adapting how you talk. I'm almost getting into a sales side of this, really, is where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
How does that play into all of it?
That's a great point. I cannot, except for just a couple of the whys, pick it out very easily. I really cannot. That's why I don't meet with anybody, Alan, on the Zoom, on a phone call, in person. I don't meet with them unless I know their why, how, and what. Because what are we going to talk about, right? We're going to go around with a bunch of BS and talk in a circle, right? And I don't want to do that. I don't have the time to spend just chit-chatting. Let's get down to why are we here? What are we talking about? And so anybody that I meet with, and this is, I met with the head of the U.S. Navy, and he had to take his YOS before I'd meet with him, and he did. And it was so much more powerful, our conversation, than if he hadn't. We would have just been gabbing away at, so what are you into? Where are you from? Tell me about your family. Tell me about, that's great stuff, but that can come later. It's like, what are we on this call for? What are we meeting for? Somebody comes into your practice. It's great to get to know them like that at some point, but ultimately, why are we here? And how do we get down to what's really bothering you? And then how can I best create a program that you're going to resonate with, that's going to work for you? On my podcast, I had this guy, Paul Allen. You probably know Paul Allen. And I asked him, I said, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And he said to me, Gary, the best piece of advice I've ever been given is don't take advice from people that don't think like you do. I'm kind of weird. And he said, Gary, the reason I like to talk to you is because you and I have the same why. And he said, when you tell me something, not only will I understand it, but I know it will work for me.
Oh.
And so it allows you to speak the language of the person that you're meeting with. So you don't just tell them from your perspective, well, here's what I would do.
Yeah.
Now, even when it comes to parenting, here's what I would do. Your kids don't want to know what you would do. They want to know what they should do based upon the way they think.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you can connect with your family even better, your clients better, your team.
Yeah.
You're able to speak the language they're speaking versus just telling them what you should do from your perspective. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm following you. I'm curious, first, a couple stories. How have people sat through, spent time with you, and turned around and applied that to the culture of their business or their company?
Oh, that's a great question. So what we do with companies is have everybody discover their why, how, and what, and then we create a matrix. And in that matrix, you'll see who they are, what they do, and do we have, and what their why, how, and what is. And you'll very quickly see where your team is strong, where your team might not be quite as strong, and who you might want to add to make it stronger. Do I have the right people in the right place doing the right things? Alan, there's such a difference between being able to do something and loving what you do, right? If I asked you, can I tell everybody your why?
Sure, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so for Alan,
Same yours.
Alan, yeah, same as mine. Alan's why is to find a better way and share it. How he does that is by thinking out, challenging the status quo and thinking outside the box, pushing limits. Ultimately, what he brings are simple solutions to help others move forward. So for Alan, it's got to be better, it's got to be different, and it's got to be simple. And so if we put Alan in a place where he gets to find better ways, think outside the box, and develop simple, usable, doable solutions, will you enjoy doing that?
Absolutely. I'm not that smart, Gary. We got to dumb it down for me to figure it out. So, can do- but you're right. It's so funny when I hear that back and I look at the arc of my career and the way I practice, the businesses that we have, where they evolve to. It is very fundamental to my frustrations, things that get really complex, where they get out of control. And so it was fascinating to have these insights. And again, I'm so excited for everybody in the room to walk through this exercise. Um, and then start to use this lens you're touching on of how do I now apply this to my family life, my business life, my friendships, my how do I make communication more meaningful? I mean, we're all so busy now. Everybody's so social media. There's that funny this to me, Gary's almost the I think the word's antithesis of, we all know those people on social media who are just, them in real life, and then they've got this different personality on social media, and you're like, who are they really that person? Because when I'm with them, they're nothing like that. And I think what it's and let's throw AI on top of that. I think we're all craving deeper, faster, more meaningful relationships and connections. And I think what you've found here and developed and is a tool to cut through the bullshit, like you said, because especially in a room like UAC where there's we always say everybody has a genius in that room. And the real trick to that is tapping into, there's something to learn from everybody in that environment, but what is it? And the faster you can get there, the faster you can kind of share with each other and elevate everything. Um, I'm excited. I really am. There's so many layers to what you've developed here, which is a question too. How did you even, I mean, I can't imagine the hours and the time and the research involved. And I mean, it's literally, how many years have you been at developing this?
16 years. Yeah, 16 years. And I don't know if I told you this. Once I developed a process for doing it, and then I started doing it for thousands and thousands. For 7 years, I did it for anybody that would let me for free. I just every patient that sat in my chair got their why discovered. This is when I just had the why. I didn't have the how and the what. But every person that I meet, you're sitting next to me on an airplane now, and you're getting your why. Well, you did sit next to me, and you did get it. You did it. That we were on a train, and you got your why discovered.
Yeah.
And what happens to people? Think in your own life to things that you are really excited about and interested in and spend a lot of time with. You start to see those things differently than everybody else. You know a ton about dance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We do. Yeah.
I don't know anything about I walk into a dance or say, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at. You already know all the nuances and what dance it is and who's good and you see it totally differently than I would. Well, that's kind of what happened with the why. I did it so much with so many people for so many years that I started to notice patterns and trends and similarities. And that's when I figured out there's only 9 different whys. Because once before that, you didn't know if you were there. Is this really my why or is this not my why? Is it sort of my why? Am I on my way to my why? You know, Just that whole thing about the concept of why. A lot of people think, well, I got to go sit in a dark room for a week to figure out my why, or I got to walk through Portugal by myself or become a hermit or whatever it is. I got to work with a counselor for a couple of years to figure out my why. No. So here's the important point. You don't have to discover or find your why. Your why is already in you. It's been there your whole life. You just have to uncover it. And that's what the software does, is it uncovers your why so that you can use it. So it goes from a feeling or sort of think you might know it to this is it. And that's when it becomes useful, which is what we're going to do at the event. When you walk out of that, when you walk out of that, well, at least my presentation, you will be crystal clear on your why, how, and what, and you will be able to say it, and you will have said it, so that then you can go use it.
Yeah, there's this core premise to chiropractic that the body has an innate intelligence to it that's inside of you. You can't think your cells healthy, and your body's coordinating that through your central nervous system. But it's this inside out approach. That's always been the opposing view of medicine, which is a very outside in traditionally approach. And so I love the idea that we're tapping into what's already in there. It's already innate to you. It's just heightening your awareness and tapping into that. So, Gary, before I let you go, any final thoughts to wrap us up? Anything for people to do to prepare too for you?
No, in fact, I would prefer they don't prepare. Don't worry about it. You just come show up. All you got to do is show up. We'll take care of everything else. I'm going to take you from zero to an expert in that, because you're going to feel it and you're going to experience it. And what'll happen to you is the level of confidence in who you are skyrockets, because when you can say it, you're going to see this. People are going to walk differently. They're going to stand differently because they have they're sure of who they are and what they bring. And now I can go be it. So one of the most important things that we'll talk about is this: your best self is your real self. What the world doesn't need is a muted version of you. What the world needs is you being the best version of yourself. Most people can't do that because they don't know who they are. So they try to be like somebody else.
Yeah.
You're going to know exactly who you are, and then it just becomes so effortless to be who you are.
It's brilliant. Well, excited to have you out with us in February, Dr. Gary, and thanks again for your time today.
Thanks, Alan. We're so excited to be there. It's going to be a great event. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks.